The janitor's son was expelled by the white principal. 10 years later, he returned with and shocked the entire school. Nairobi. The rainy season came early that year dark clouds pressed down like a suffocating blanket, the air thick with humidity and dust. But inside the elite Nairobi Academy's grand colonial-era auditorium, all red brick and ivy, everything glittered. Crystal chandeliers reflected artificial light onto dark wood floors and portraits of past headmasters. The scent of expensive perfume, freshly pressed suits, and ladies' hats filled the air. Graduation day, the most important event at this temple of power, wealth, and civilization. Every seat was taken. Front rows held exclusively white faces, diplomats, corporate executives, descendants of colonizers, all exuding natural superiority. Further back sat Africa's privileged few who'd breached these hallowed halls, successful businessmen, officials, doctors. Lawyers, dressed to impress while mimicking front-row manners, their smiles mixing pride with rely concealed tension. Their children, in crisp British-tailored uniforms adorned with honor pins, waited for their coronation. 16-year-old Kwame Mwata stood at the podium's edge. His faded but meticulously ironed navy uniform, straight tie and polished shoes couldn't hide his shaking hands clutching that thin Best Science Award certificate. This wasn't just paper, it represented countless nights studying by kerosene lamp, sneaking into clean classrooms to review, surviving on dry bread in library corners. A cleaner's son's defiant shout to this temple that saw him as other. Kwame's gaze drifted toward the back shadows where his father Joseph Mwata, in washed-out janitor blues, stood on tiptoes sea-urching for his son. When Joseph spotted that certificate, his weathered face lit with ear-breakingly humble pride. His lips moved. Silently, my boy. Rough fingers touched the cheap plastic beaded amulet in his chest pocket, his only ancestral blessing for his son, and now, the Best Science Award. The announcer's voice boomed. All eyes turned to Kwame. Straightening his thin frame, he stepped forward stiffly, each footfall feeling like walking on knives or cotton. He knew the judging sta res, the whispered comments. But he had to do this, for the man who lit his kerosene lamp nightly in their leaking slum shack. Just as Kwame reached the final step, a voice like an ice pick shattered the hall's false harmony. Wait. Headmistress Elizabeth C.A. Reuter. Emerald velvet gown. Oversized PRLS steel gray hair in perfect bun. Her professional smile didn't reach those hawkish blue eyes locking onto Kwame. Mr. Mwata, her voice ca right effortlessly, dripping condescension, before accepting this honor, explain why your uniform apars, unconventional. She gestured. Elegantly toward his sleeves rely visible we are, from 3 years of use and washing, and one faint cleaning product stain, his father's unintentional marque. Kwame's stomach dropped. Defend their poverty. Explain his janitor father's sweat-stained gift here, amid perfumes and silks, such truths were laughable. Without waiting, C.A. Reuter's spotlight gaze found Kwame's backpack, specifically the palm-sized, multicolored plastic bead amulet tied there. Joseph's first-day gift, bought with meager wages to protect his son in white man's territory. And this C.A. Reuter's voice sharpened with disgust. What primitive artifact contradicts our school's ethos, headmistress? It's, Kwame's voice shook, my father's blessing from home. Enough. C.A. Reuter's whip-crack interruption silenced all. Nairobi Academy molds future leaders through discipline and excellence. Our uniforms represent unity and rule adherence. Any violation is unacceptable. She turned theatrically to the crowd. PA rents, guests observe. Not only poor uniform upkeep but primitive superstitious totems undermining our academic environment. Her glacial STA returned to Kwame. Kwame Mwata, for severe conduct violations breaching our elite standa RDS, I hereby revoke your AWA RD and expel you effective immediately. No. Please. Kwame's plea died as his certificate slipped like dead leaves. He couldn't move to retrieve it. Then movement in the back shadows. Joseph erupted like kindling set ablaze. Seeing his son's devastation, CA Reuter's cruelty, he shoved past Kwa RDS, lunging four-way RD to grab Kwame's ARM, rasping at CA Reuter, headmistress. Mercy. My boy worked so hard. RD. Security. Remove this trespasser. CA Reuter commanded. Two burly Gua RDS manhandled Joseph away as he screamed his last defiance. This place wasn't built for cleaners' sons. Each word stabbed Kwame's heart, watching his father dragged like trash. Seeing his trampled certificate under designer shoes, his world collapsed. The auditorium's silence broke only by Joseph's muffled sobs and dragging feet. Every STA read pitying, scornful, indifferent, pierced Kwame. Leave, CA Reuter said, as if shooing a stray dog. Never return. You're unwelcome here. Then, the skies erupted. Torrential rain hammered the stained glass windows like heaven's protest. Cold rivulets blurred Kwame's vision as he bent to retrieve his muddied, footprint-stained certificate. Without looking back at those frozen faces, he supported his shaking, rain-soaked father and stumbled from this sanctuary of broken dreams. The downpour mercilessly pounded their thin frames. Rain mixed with TRS on Kwame's face as he glanced back. Those glowing windows seemed so cold and distant now. Clutching his ruined certificate, his nails drew crescent moons of blood in his palms. Later, in their leaking shacks. Kerosene blow, Kwame obsessively cleaned that mud-caked amulet. The bead's cold edges bit his palm. STA ring at rainwater dripping through roof holes, a silent thunder ROA read inside him. Elizabeth CA Reuter. I'll return. In ways you can't imagine. You'll all remember Kwame Mwata's name. Rain dripped through the rusted roof, pinging against the few cracked bowls placed around the room. The kerosene lamp's weak glow flickered over Keenan's face, young but shadowed with despair. He sat on a wobbly stool, clutching the muddy plastic bead amulet. The beads felt rough and cold against his fingers, like his father's calloused hands or that marble floor where he'd been humiliated. The ruined Best Science AWA Road certificate lay across his knees like a tombstone. Father Joseph lay curled on a straw mat in the corner, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. That quiet grief hurt worse than any wailing. Keenan knew his father had scrimped and saved. To send him to school, hoping his son could fly out of the slums, only to see him publicly shamed and expelled. This wasn't just Keenan's dream dying, it was his father's one fragile hope crushed. Dad! Keenan's voice scraped like sandpaper. Joseph turned slowly, TRS cutting through the deep wrinkles on his face. Keenan! He whispered, sounding exhausted, I'm sorry. Useless father. Just a cleaner. Couldn't protect you. His trembling finger pointed at the amulet. That thing doesn't work, couldn't protect you. No. Dad. Keenan shot up, voice suddenly Shah RP with stubborn defiance, it does work. It brought me back to you. He pressed the amulet to his chest like he wanted to fuse it with his flesh. They took the AWA RD, kicked me out, but they can't take my mind. What I know. Someday. A coughing fit interrupted him. Joseph covered his mouth, blood seeped between his fingers. Keenan's. He clenched. His father's body, already weakened by years of back-breaking work and malnutrition, couldn't handle this new blow. As he steadied Joseph, seeing that to RK blood, all thoughts of school and dreams seemed laughable against survival's harsh reality. He had to live. Had to ca for his father. But Nairobi's education system had essentially sentenced Keenan's school dream to death. With an expelled for misconduct record, every public school gave the same response: sorry, we can't accept problem students. The look said it all, pity mixed with clear dismissal. A slum kid, cleaner's son, expelled from elite school. Dangerous. Unworthy. He felt abandoned by the whole city, trapped in this muddy pit. Days now meant work, not school. Keenan labored at construction sites NEA that damned elite school, hauling cement, ring bricks, shoulders ring weights FAR beyond his years sweat and dirt stung his eyes. Whenever he passed those familiar right gates, he'd slow unconsciously. His gaze would drift toward the red brick buildings, his temple of knowledge turned execution ground. The sound of students reciting lessons, glimpses of clean uniforms through the fence, each sight stabbed like needles. He'd lower his head, quicken his pace, swallowing the burning mix of envy, resentment, and shame. But Keenan never stopped running. While co-workers rested under trees, he'd sneak to the school's most secluded wall. Stacking disc-ride bricks to stand on, he'd press his ear against the cold rough surface, drinking in every muffled word of lessons like they were divine. With a sharpened piece of slate and chalk nubs, he scribbled notes at the wall space, math formulas, physics laws, English vocabulary. He absorbed every drop of knowledge like pa-arched earth soaking rain. When rain smea read his slate, he shielded it with his body. When sun baked the slate hot, he used rags. His fingers bled from the chalk, staining gray-black. Nights were precious. With father asleep early from illness, Keenan would turn the kerosene lamp to its brightest. In that weak glow, he devoured any book he could find: old newspapers, packaging scraps, even water-damaged textbook pages fished from trash. With pencil stubs, he covered every writable surface with calculations and notes. Without proper materials, he pieced together knowledge from eavesdropped fragments and newspaper science blurbs, building his own understanding. Stuck on problems, he'd sit all night, brows furrowed, the lamp's flame dancing with his quick breaths. Hunger. A bite of rock hard cornbread. Sleepy cold water to the face. What kept him going? His father's bloody coughs. Principal C.A. Reuter's cold sta re. Every rough edge of that beaded amulet. In this suffocating darkness, one faint light emerged. Elder Mwada. The 70-something community elder. Noticed the boy listening to walls. Mwada wasn't educated but knew tribal wisdom, stars, herbs, animal ways, oral histories. He'd seen many youths crushed by fate, many elites who'd forgotten their roots after white man's schooling. One evening, Mwada hobbled over on his cane, watching Keenan scribble on slate, seeing the unquenchable fire in his eyes. Boy, the elder finally rasped, like wind through dry reeds, listening to white knowledge through walls. Sta riled. Keenan looked up wryly, but Mwada's gaze held unexpected rmth. Yes. Elder, Keenan murmured, covering his slate. Mwada chuckled, showing few remaining teeth. Covering won't help. Wind erases words, not the fire inside you. He pointed to baobab trees visible over the wall. See those? Roots go deeper than branches, storing water, living millennia. White knowledge is like rain, precious but fleeting. Your roots, boy, are here. He tapped the ground. Firmly. In our stories. Our land. How we see the world. Keenan froze. No teacher had ever said this. Elite school taught that African traditions were backward, needing civilized replacement. Elder. Are you saying? White knowledge doesn't matter? No, boy. Mwada shook his head. Shah rply. White knowledge is a knife, cuts trees, builds houses. But the hand holding it must see clear rly. Usta re at their knives, forgetting what your own soil can grow. Forgetting what your cleaner father knows that wold people don't. He pointed at the slate. You calculate numbers, for what? To wear velvet dresses like Mrs. C.A. Reuter, step on others' dignity, or? His eyes scanned the leaking slum roofs. To fix leaks, give clean water, stop your father's coughs. These words struck Keenan like lightning. He'd seen knowledge as revenge, a ladder up. Mwada said its true worth was solving real problems for real people, resonating deeply with the suffering Keenan saw daily. Mwada became Keenan's guiding light, teaching EARTH wisdom to understand white knowledge. Which weeds stopped bleeding? Which bark reduced fever? What ant movements before rains meant? Tribal water taboos. Keenan connected these to stolen science fragments, realizing many superstitions held ecological or medicinal truths. This unique perspective transformed him, no longer passively absorbing, but actively questioning, blending cultural lenses. The turning point came one rainy dawn. An NGO jeep stopped at the slum entrance. Aya, the African coordinator for literacy programs, spotted Keenan, the boy writing complex equations on slate by the wall. Talking with him, she was stunned by his self-taught brilliance and raw hunger to Leah RN. Want real, systematic education? She asked, eyes shining. Keenan's heartnearly stopped. He nodded fiercely. Aya brought hope. Her organization offered online courses for impoverished youth worldwide, basic sciences, math, computing. Though conditions were harsh, one NGO-donated computer with slow satellite internet existed in the community. Aya fought to enroll Keenan with a small stipend. When Keenan first saw Clea or lecture videos on that battered screen, he trembled with excitement. No more muffled echoes through walls, this was knowledge flowing directly. He studied voraciously, rely sleeping between work and lessons. Blending Mwada's EARTH wisdom into studies, his African perspective solutions impressed overseas instructors. He used basic coding to track community water usage, physics to design simple water filters from plastic bottles and sand. Late nights, kerosene lamp flickering, Keenan pecked clumsily at the Kiboe road outside. The slum slept in darkness. He glanced down at the amulet, now cleaned and rest-wrung by Mwadak, glowing faintly but stubbornly in the lamplight. Then an email notification. From a Canadian university-affiliated program. Full scholarship offer for engineering and sustainable development. Keenan clapped a hand over his mouth, tiaras splashing the Kiboe road, pressing the amulet to his burning forehead. Wada's words echoed, "Your roots are here, but your wings are regrown. Fly. Remember who you are." Gazing into the night, that revenge fire inside him had transformed. No longer just burning the past, it now lit a path forward full of possibilities. Time to leave. But his roots would always run deep here. Keenan stood by the massive floor-to-ceiling windows at Montreal's Trudeau International Airport, watching the snow-covered world outside. His breath fogged up the cold glass in little puffs. The thin jacket that was just enough for Nairobi's breezes felt ridiculously inadequate now. The biting wind cut into his face like knives, and he instinctively pulled tighter the only item he had, a second-hand donated jacket. Everything around him felt foreign, the signs in French and English, people rushing by bundled in thick down coats, even the air smelled different, a mix of car exhaust and some unfamiliar spice. This icy, orderly world couldn't be more different from the noisy, humid, dusty slums of Nairobi. He adjusted the worn canvas bag on his shoulder. Inside were just some old clothes, his father's photo, that beaded amulet, and the precious scholarship acceptance letter. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward into his new life with something like grim determination. The culture shock hit him from all sides. Language was the first wall. Professors spoke so fast, full of jargon and local slang, it just sounded like noise to Keenan. His frozen fingers struggled to take notes, the handwriting barely legible. After class, he'd spend hours with dictionaries and translation apps just to understand the basics. Money was always tight too. The scholarship covered tuition and basic housing, but living expenses that was on him. He ended up in the cheapest dorm, a tiny, damp basement room. To pay for food and books, he worked multiple jobs. At 5 a.m. when the city still slept, Keenan was already up cleaning the library, mopping floors, wiping shelves, taking out trash. It felt familiar yet humiliating. He made sure every surface shone spotless, as if proving even cleaning required dignity and skill. After morning classes, he'd wolf down some bread before running to the lab to wash glassware and organize data. Evenings meant cafeteria work until late. Exhaustion weighed on him like lead, but whenever he wanted to quit, he'd remember his father coughing blood, Principal C.A. Reuter's cold dismissal, or Elder Mwada's words that kept him going. The subtle racism was everywhere. At first he tried to fit in Shah-ring African hot sauce, greeting classmates. But responses were either polite smiles or ignorant questions like, "Wow, Africa, do you see lions everywhere?" Once during a group discussion about water management, he mentioned traditional African methods only to be cut off. "Oh, those primitive fixes don't compare to modern engineering." Keenan sat silently, nails digging into his palms. Here, he was still the other, some exotic specimen needing enlightenment. But Keenan didn't give up or fight back. Elder Mwada's wisdom about connection took root. He root intentionally blending traditional knowledge with Western science. For an engineering design project on sustainable energy, while others proposed expensive solar panels, Keenan remembered traditional windmill irrigation systems and weaving patterns. His design used recycled bottles and metal to create a honeycomb solar heating/ventilation system inspired by African geometry. When presented, the professor and classmates were stunned. The innovative, low-cost solution earned real respect, not pity applause. This win gave Keenan confidence. He launched Africa Lumina Week with other international students. Instead of bragging, he told his amulet story, from being banned in Nairobi to inspiring his designs. He demonstrated how bead patterns could optimize solar panel layouts. People finally saw African traditions as wisdom, not primitive relics. One formerly prejudiced classmate admitted, "Keenan, I was wrong. Your traditions aren't backward, they're problem-solving philosophy." At the event, Keenan met Daniel, a Rwandan British tech was passionate about Africa's development. Their skills complemented perfectly Keenan's traditional knowledge and Daniel's tech expertise spark at amazing ideas. They became inseparable friends and future business partners. Over 4 years, Keenan traveled Europe studying advanced systems but always asked, how can we Africanize this? He realized true elites aren't those with fancy degrees, but people who use knowledge to actually help their communities. At graduation, as valedictorian, Keenan held up his beaded amulet under sunlight. 4 years ago I came here from Nairobi slums with this. Some called it primitive. Today it reminds me where my roots are, that knowledge isn't for personal glory, but to help people like my father who sweep streets yet never lose hope. The standing ovation was thunderous. Then his phone buzzed, a text from Amina back home, Uncle Joseph, getting worse, misses you. Suddenly all the applause meant nothing. Only one thought remained, time to go home. Keenan stood in the chaotic arrivals hall of Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta Airport. The blast of hot air hit him like a slap, thick with dust and exhaust fumes, instantly snapping him out of northern hemisphere chill. He breathed deep. That familiar unfamiliar scent of slum king fires and distant market bustle made his eyes burn. He was home. No longer the expelled boy, but Mr. Mwata, dual master's degrees in engineering and sustainable development, international speaker. Yet when he hailed a battered taxi and said Kibera, his slum birthplace, the driver's dull eyes flickered with surprise and hidden disdain. Sir, you sure? That place is dirty, dangerous. Keenan just nodded, gaze fixed on the rushing landscape outside, familiar yet changed. His heart was already flying ahead to that corrugated iron shack. But what awaited was heavier than imagined. The creaking metal door revealed a dim, damp space reeking of medicine and decay. Joseph Mwata lay on the familiar straw mat, his once strong frame now skeletal, each labored breath like a broken bellows. He recognized Keenan. Cloudy eyes sparkled weakly as cracked lips moved. Son, you came home. Fingers twitched feebly. Keenan lunged forward, clutching that veined, cold hand as TRS erupted. He'd brought knowledge, world-changing ambitions, but not his father's health. Days later, cradled in Keenan's RMS, Joseph Mwata slipped away, eyes closing forever on unfulfilled dreams of his son's success. The funeral was simple, neighbors honoring the quiet cleaner in their slums clearing. Kneeling at the fresh mound, Keenan placed the beaded amulet atop it. Elder Mwata's GNA-led hand settled on his shaking shoulder. No words. Just a sigh that hollowed Keenan out. The revenge fire died. Fatherless, he felt adrift, a ship without anchor. But from crushing grief came CLA righty. Joseph hadn't just scrubbed floors, he'd clear red paths to knowledge with calloused hands. Taught dignity and haradship, not elitism. His worth couldn't be measured by Headmistress C.A. Reuter's cruel metrics. Keenan realized his father's sacrifice, his own education, couldn't just fuel personal vengeance or escape. He had to act. For Joseph. For all silent, mighty laborers. For every overlooked life on this soil. An idea blazed, use overseas Louis Rened's skills here at his roots. START, a social enterprise, tech empowering communities with clean energy, water, fair education. He named it EARTH Wisdom, honoring Elder Mwata while merging ancestral and modern SMARTS. The best tribute to his father. Reality bit road selling his few valuables and pooling Daniels, who'd returned a liar, family loans rely covered a derelict warehouse on the slum's edge. First Turtle Trust. Explaining solar are microgrids and biosin filters mostly drew blank sta residential or scoffing. Keenan. White school reject. Back to scam us with sun electricity clean water we've drunk ditch water decades, lived fine. Fancy machines versus elders herb some thought him whitewashed. Others via read new exploitation. Keenan didn't preach. Shedding. Foreign expert heirs, he worked alongside local hires in grubby t-shirts hauling solar mounts, mixing concrete, installing pipes. Simple explanations, see these panels like leaves swallow sunlight, spit out electricity. Stored in this battery belly lights at night. Kids study, moms ditch choking kerosene. He demonstrated filters turning brown river water crystal clear, offering tastes. Proof came through pilot projects. Free solar lights and water systems went to community centers and supportive families. When the first LED flickered on in a leaky shack, the family erupted, kids shrieking, elders touching bulbs like holy relics. Clean tap water made women weep. Tangible change spoke loudest. Doubts melted. The EARTH Wisdom logo became a unifying symbol. Keenan and Daniel designed interwoven lines, African EARTH tones, ochre, sienna, meeting tech blue, forming a bead-like circle. These beads connect past to future, tradition. To tech, person to person, building our Shaw-Red home, Keenan explained. Printed on Heya, it became community insignia. Education was Keenan's passion. Knowing knowledge is power and slum kids BA Ryers, he built a digital learning hub from recycled PCs. His tailored curriculum blended science with African nature and folklore, emphasizing problem solving. Amina, childhood friend turned dropout, became STA teacher. Seeing kids rekindled curiosity, she told Keenan, "You lit them up. Not just bulbs, their minds." But bureaucracy and empty coffers loomed. Permits stalled. TA RIFs choked Pa RTS imports. Payroll teetered. Keenan and Daniel pitched everywhere: government offices, foundations, corporations. HA road data showed solar are cutting kerosene costs by X%, filters reducing child diarrhea Y%. Passionate storytelling won converts. Then, breakthrough. On the eve of completing their first microgrid, lighting a whole neighborhood, a familia R. Downpour came. Wind howled. Rain drummed roofs like wah cries. In the community center, Keenan's team watched the control panel. Lights bloomed. Not one, but constellations across the waterlogged slum. People spilled from shacks, gaping at the impossible sight. An old woman clutched Keenan's hands, trembling. "Mwada's son, your father's spirit sees. He swept roads lifelong, now you light the sky." Standing in the storm, rain and TRS merging, Keenan knew this was just the beginning. He'd taken his father's path. Lit his lamp. But the road stretched long ahead. Then Daniel approached, holding papers, expression conflicted. "Keenan, opportunity. Big foundation loves our model. Wants to fund nationwide scale-up, but..." He hesitated. "They insist we partner with premier institutions for elite training. Specifically." A deep breath. "Nairobi Elite Academy." Keenan's smile died. Through the rain, his gaze found that distant. Red brick fortress still glowing smugly after all these years. Daniel's voice cut the downpour. "Go back." Face her wiping his face, Keenan's eyes settled into calm depth. His fingers found the amulet's familia are ridges in his pocket. When he spoke, the word "ca" ride quiet steel. "Not going back to face her, Daniel. Going back to prove. Prove to everyone like my father. Every dismissed child. Time has come." The rain kept falling. But inside Keenan, a new fire burned hotter than before. Nairobi's rainy season had finally passed, leaving skies brilliantly blue and sunlight generously pouring over the land. But inside EARTH Wisdom's community center, the atmosphere was even hotter than during the rains. Keenan and Daniel stood before a massive world map studded with colored pins marking their project's reach, from Kibra's STA routing point to satellite towns and distant rural pilots. In just 2 years, their model was proving itself. Spreading like ripples from a stone tossed in water. Keenan wasn't just a founder now, media called him Africa's youth innovation hero, grassroots tech light. His face graced newspaper covers, his interviews with international outlets told the cleaner's son to social entrepreneur legend. Always, he stressed one truth: real innovation grows from deep understanding of the soil beneath us. Our tech is African EARTH grown solutions. These reports and Keenan's rising fame inevitably sent shockwaves through Nairobi Elite Academy's ivory tower. First, students whispered. African students sitting where Keenan once had, seeing that familia around familiar face in papers, felt conflicted. Some swelled with pride. Look. One of ours, expelled but now a big shot. More felt shame and anger recalling headmistress C.A. Reuter's icy dismissal, those cleaners' son, primitive totem slurs. This expelled stain was actually changing lives while they, the elites, still stressed over college apps and corporate jobs. The contrast made many question, what had their prized education really taught: superiority or problem solving? Community service or detachment from their roots? Soon, young idealistic African teachers, many EARTH Wisdom beneficiaries, rise themselves, organized reading groups on educational equity and post-colonial knowledge systems. They used Keenan's story in classrooms to discuss social justice. At faculty meetings, they gently pushed for more support for disadvantaged students and African sustainability content. Headmistress C.A. Reuter, ruling the academy for 30 years with iron fists, found these noises intolerable. To her colonial-conditioned mind, Keenan's success was just a hard-working oddity's lucky break, not proof her system failed. Elite education meant maintaining standards and purity to groom proper leaders, mostly white and privileged Africans. Not uplifting rabble. Keenan's triumph wasn't praiseworthy, it held up a mirror to her short-sighted prejudice, threatening her precious order. Keenan Wada, she sneered at a BOA RD meeting, a cleaner's boy with flashy gadgets for headlines. Is EARTH wisdom? Sounds like tribal witchcraft. We mold presidents and CS, not run charities. Let him play savior in slums, keep that lowly concern out of our halls. She quashed all reform talks, warning teachers not to be swayed by media melodrama. But Keenan's influence couldn't be fully contained. Lena, a student leader moved by his story, launched Understanding and Connection, collecting hundreds of signatures demanding the academy acknowledge its unjust expulsion of Keenan and establish fairer scholarships. The petition struck at C.A. Reuter's authorities' roots. Younger BOA RD members wavered, seeing how ignoring Keenan's success harmed the school's reputation. Then came the game-changing. Opportunity. Daniel rushed in waving a letter from Global South Development Fund offering massive 3EA nationwide expansion funding. Keenan. This is manna from heaven. Daniel exclaimed. With this, we could build hundreds of centers, train thousands. Keenan's heart raced. This was the breakthrough they needed. Then he read the fine print, must partner with at least one premier institution for future leaders training. Specifically suggested, Nairobi Elite Academy. His finger froze over those words like touching hot iron. That place. That woman. The humiliation. Now his growth depended on them. The foundation's logic was coldly practical. The Academy's elite resources and networks would elevate EARTH Wisdom's profile for investors. To Keenan, it felt like cruel irony and a soul's test. Alone in their modest office, listening to children's happy voices outside, Keenan took out two treasures, his father Joseph's photo. We ring faded cleaner uniform, smiling humbly, and that plastic bead amulet. Memories flooded back. His father dragged out by security, CA Reuter's icy words, those contemptuous sta res shame. Rage. Defiance. Go back, face her as victor, gloating, or make peace for the greater good. Accepting elite training programs felt like betraying his roots, his father's dignity. Daniel re-entered, reading Keenan's face. I know it hurts. That place, her, our SCARS. But this money is EARTH Wisdom's lifeline. Without it. Reality. Keenan cut in Shah RPLY, what's real? CA Reuter's ivory tower. Were these slums my father sweeping streets? Kids studying by kerosene. EARTH Wisdom's reality is solving these. But without funds, we solve nothing. Daniel countered. PA renewing isn't surrendering. We set terms. Make them open scholarships, send students here for fieldwork. Drag elites down to EARTH. Wouldn't that shake them deeper? Daniel's words. struck like lightning. Go back not for revenge or joining their world, but to prove a cleaner's son could not only rise with knowledge and dignity, but transform the system that rejected him. Make EARTH wisdom's value undeniable, forcing those gates open. More powerful than mere vengeance. Kenan looked again at his father's photo. Joseph had silently cleaned the academy's filth for Yars. Now Kenan would cleanse its centuries-old dust of arrogance and injustice with knowledge and action. He stood, walking to the window. Sunset gilded their solar panels brilliantly. Children's laughter rang louder. The amulet's rough beads grounded him. Daniel, his voice was steel, tell the Foundation yes, on our terms. First, their elite training must center on EARTH wisdom's grassroots work. Second, full show layerships for Kibera's brightest. Third, his eyes blazed with HRD1 fire. I, Kenan Wada, lead all negotiations personally. Turning. He declay read, it's time. Time that Tower's bells rang for all children. Outside, the molten gold sunset foretold the coming storm that would shake Nairobi to its core. Morning sunlight pierced Nairobi's mist, gilding the city. A sleek silver electric SUV glided silently through chaotic streets, a stark contrast to ROA ring diesel trucks and packed matatas. Its destination, Nairobi Elite Academy's Gua Ride, tree-lined western campus. The CAR bore a striking logo EARTHY ochres and tech blues woven into abstract beads EARTH wisdom. Inside, Kenan Wada sat upright. Gone were his work overalls. Today he wore a tailored navy suit, but swapped the tie for a traditional Kikoyi SCARF in indigo and saffron, subtly patterned with EARTH wisdom's geometric motifs. On his left hand, the restored plastic bead amulet caught light with quiet resilience. Beside him, Daniel Okoro reviewed presentation slides on his tablet, jaw tight. The air hummed. With unspoken tension, old battlefield nerves mixing with steely resolve. Ready, boss. Daniel broke the silence, voice betraying slight strain. Kenan exhaled, watching familia. Our red brick walls loom closer. Remember Daniel, we're not here begging or gloating. We're negotiating. Showing value. His gaze deepened. Proving a cleaner's son can stand here as equals. When the electric vehicle rolled onto campus, it detonated like depth chaw ridges. Students mid-lesson, teachers, even Gua RDS froze mid-motion. This futuristic intruder among luxury SUVs drew every eye. Then Kenan emerged, gasps erupted. The boy once dragged through mud now stood regal in fusion attire, radiating quiet authority. Daniel matched his poise. Whispers exploded. That's Kenan. Kenan Wada. God, is that an electric CAR? He looks completely different. They say he runs EARTH wisdom, brought Sola to Kibera. Why's he back revenge on the headmistress? Kenan ignored the stir. Each step down memory lane, polished floors unchanged, portrait gazes still icy, even that old scent of perfume and kerosene lingering. Eyes tracked him from every doorway, awe, shock, maybe lingering disdain. He straightened further, the amulet swinging gently with each step, silent proclamation. The headmistress's door stood shut. After minutes of tense waiting, Elizabeth C.A. Reuter emerged. Impeccable suit, PRL necklace, steel gray bun, but Kenan caught the micro-FLA in her pale blue eyes. Surprise. Allah RM offended pride. Her smile stayed professional, brittle. Mr. Mwada, her voice kept its frosty authority, Mr. Okoro. Unexpected, reunion. That last word deliberately loaded. Headmistress C.A. Reuter, Kenan met her evenly, Tenya R.S. Thank you for your time. We're here Riga writing the Global South Development Fund PA Reinership. Her office was a time capsule, leather-bound books, antique globes. C.A. Reuter took her high-back throne behind the desk, steepling fingers. Keenan and Daniel sat lower on couches. Powerplay obvious. Pa Reinership. Ca Reuter's eyebrow arched. Your EARTH wisdom has made some notable community strides. The fund sees value, fine. But, her tone turned dismissive. Elite Academy upholds rigorous Standa RDS. Our resources cultivate global leaders, not dilute our purity for populist projects. Daniel tensed, but Keenan gently restrained him. Leaning forward RD, his gaze never wavered. That once humiliated boy now radiate ha RD1 confidence. Headmistress, Keenan's voice remained measured, we respect tradition. But the future faces climate crises, inequality, challenges no walls stop. He opened his tablet, displaying EARTH wisdom's impact. Kibaras Sola, our microgrid, 500 homes ditching kerosene. Kids study safely at night. Crime rates dropped 30%. Village bios and filters, local materials cutting. Child Ria by half. Digital hubs, recycled tech teaching problem-solving through African case studies. Snapping the tablet shut, his eyes burned, this is EARTH wisdom's value. Not lowly cha righty real solutions. Pierrener with us, let your students engage these projects, they'll Leah RN true leadership beyond textbooks. That's what future elites need. A faint, knowing smile. Real excellence isn't blood or skin, it's using knowledge to better the world. Agreed. Ca Reuter paled slightly. She grasped for bureaucratic defenses, your projects have merit. But elite education prioritizes academic rigor. Fieldwork can't replace headmistress, Keenan smoothly interrupted, the EARTH wisdom show leadership isn't handout, it's investment. In kids like I was, hungry, brilliant, overlooked. We fund their education plus EARTH wisdom training in jobs. Boosts your diversity stats, win-win. He slid four-way RD a detailed proposal. Everything's ready. Just needs your endorsement. Silence thickened. Ca Reuter Sta read at the document, then Keenan's unreadable eyes. His data-backed vision dismantled her elitist posturing. For the first time, she felt outmaneuvered, this expelled boy now negotiating as her equal. Keenan rose, adjusting his SCARF. We understand deliberation takes time. Our door stays open to true changemakers. With a nod, he turned. Exiting, Keenan didn't head straight out. He walked to where he'd once eavesdropped outside classrooms, now a grand window overlooking manicured lawns and that ancient baobab tree. Pausing, he touched his amulet. A decade ago, he'd been that shamed boy pressing against walls. Today, he'd stood unbowed before his tormentor. Not triumph, just sober responsibility. The real work was just beginning. Outside, the baobab's long shadow seemed to be a witness, dignity reclaimed after 10 long years. The door clicked shut behind Keenan, sealing. Off headmistress Ca Reuter's oppressive office. He and Daniel walked slowly down the red brick hallway, footsteps echoing. Drawn by some invisible pull, they drifted Tawa RD the science lab, the place where Keenan's academic dreams had once lived. The door was slightly IR inside, students clustered around a lab table where Lena, the girl behind the Understanding and Connection movement, waved a newspaper excitedly. The front page showed Keenan standing before Solar panels at EARTH Wisdom's Community Center, headline blazing, Cleaner's Sun Lights Up Slums, Keenan Wada's Revolution. His name, alongside Nairobi Elite Academy, printed boldly for all to see. Look, Lena's voice Ca Ride Clea RLY, Mr. Mwada was expelled 10 years ago for primitive totems and uniform violations. He wasn't some troublemaker, he's a genius. What he's doing now actually changes lives. She gestured at their imported lab equipment. Meanwhile, we're here.
Leah running to become the next CA rooters, not the next Keenans. Students exchanged glances, some nodding, others uneasy. Keenan and Daniel slipped away silently.
Their visit had dropped a stone into still waters, ripples spreading further than imagined.
Keenan's mere presence was cracking CA Rooter's fully constructed ivory tower.
But CA Rooter struck back swiftly.
Next morning, a blistering email blasted faculty and student council inboxes.
She clarified Keenan's expulsion as upholding academic integrity, downplaying his achievements as commendable but not exemplary, warning against idolizing outliers that undermine discipline. Teachers were ordered to guide students toward proper success metrics, while unauthorized activities faced disciplinary action. The email doused student enthusiasm like ice water. Open discussions about Keenan vanished overnight. But Keenan knew the deepest storms brew beneath calm surfaces. He and Daniel doubled down with the foundation, detailing the EARTH Wisdom Scholarship's selection criteria, training programs, and social impact metrics.
Foundation reps, impressed by Keenan's vision, pledged full support and pressured the academy for answers. Pressure mounted on CA Rooter.
Beyond the foundation, influential alumni, including a cabinet minister and prominent seat, privately voiced support, asking if the school would partner with EARTH Wisdom to recruit grounded talent. Even her elite circle was fracturing. Then came the tipping point. Lena's group secretly contacted Keenan, arranging a field trip to EARTH Wisdom's community center. When elite academy students first stepped into Kibera slums, reality hit like a sledgehammer. NA muddy paths, cramped tin shacks, filthy water sources, kids playing NEAR trash heaps, a world apart from their manicured campus. Inside EARTH Wisdom Center, solar-powered lights, clean water filters. Children coding on recycled computers, the contrast stunned them. David, a privileged white student, watched a Kibera teen his age expertly calibrate circuits. "You, Leah, are in this just to fix things here forever?" The boy looked up, eyes clear. "No, sir. I'll design better systems so all Kenya, all Africa, gets clean energy. Mr. Keenan says our roots anchor us, but wings can fly anywhere." The word struck David like lightning, realizing the poor weren't lazy or stupid, just opportunities vet with immense potential. The visit planted seeds. Back at school, demands for partnership resurged. Student council formally petitioned the BOA RD to approve collaboration and establish the scholarship immediately. BOA Road sentiment shifted decisively against CA Rooter. Cornered, CA Rooter made her last stand at a BOA RD meeting. Tradition and standa RDS must a young BOA RD member cut in, headmistress, traditions that resist progress become relics. Mr. Mwata proves true excellence serves society, not preserves ivory towers. Denying EARTH wisdom denies geniuses like him, that's true primitiveness. I move we approve partnership and appoint Keenan Mwata as future leaders program-led consultant. The vote passed overwhelmingly. CA Rooter sat rigid, face ashen. Her reign was over. Days later, under sunny skies, Elite Academy's auditorium hosted a very different ceremony. No pompous glitter, just earnest hope filling the space. Students, faculty, media, officials, and community reps packed the room. Keenan Mwata returned to that stage, no longer a trembling boy. Dressed in an African modern fusion robe, the beaded amulet gleaming at his chest, he held the signed agreement and first scholarship roster. CA Rooter sat stiffly in front, BA Rely maintaining composure. When Keenan took the mic, silence fell. 10 years ago, his steady voice filled the hall, I stood here stripped of honors.
And expelled, for my cleaner father and ancestral beads. The bells told my shame. He paused, gaze sweeping over young faces before briefly resting on CA Router. Today, I return not for revenge or glory, but to witness something greater, dignity, connection, the future. He raised the documents. This partnership means elite academy students will engage real-world challenges beyond these walls. The EARTH Wisdom Scholarship opens these gates to Kibera's brightest. Thunderous applause erupted, TRS shining in many eyes. Keenan spotted Lena and David clapping fiercely, faces alight. The bells ring again, Keenan's voice swelled with power, but now they summon overlooked geniuses, future leaders who'll listen to the EARTH's whispers. True elites aren't defined by origins, but where they take their knowledge. Whether they'll use wisdom to light paths for those like my father, who swept roads in darkness but never lost hope. The ovation ROA read like a tidal wave. CA Router sat hunched, knuckles white. Her era had ended. Keenan Wada, once her stain, now rang the bells of a new age, his love for this land and people resonating in every HRT. The EARTH Wisdom Nairobi Elite Academy partnership signing sent shockwaves across Kenya and East Africa. Keenan Wada's story evolved from Slumboy Makes Good to a national conversation about education equity and social change. Media spotlight intensified, but Keenan stayed grounded. The real work was just beginning, ensuring this HRD1 collaboration bore fruit beyond symbolism. EARLY days brought stubborn resistance. Though forced to concede, Headmistress CA Router's shadow lingered. Conservative teachers subtly undermined the community immersion program, scheduling conflicts, dismissive grading of non-academic experiences. Some privileged students entered Kibera with visible discomfort, pristine sneakers avoiding.
Mud, noses wrinkling at conditions, conversation stiff with unspoken superiority. Keenan and Daniel expected this.
Their response embedded EARTH Wisdom's core values, connection and empowerment, into the program's DNA.
They designed an intensive immersion. Students lived in Kibera for a week, sharing homes with locals, hauling solar panels, maintaining water filters, assisting in digital hubs. Keenan taught his first class not in elite academies' lecture halls, but before a leaky tin shack in Kibera. See here, Keenan pointed to roof gaps where rain dripped onto a child's textbook. My books were always damp too. Your first task, design a rainwater collection system using only cheap, available materials. He handed them Disque-Rite bottles, PVC pipes, and TA-RPs. The assignment shattered students' assumptions. Textbook formulas felt useless against messy, resource-SCA-RCE reality. They consulted locals about needs and materials. Got drenched, cut fingers on tools. When their makeshift gutter successfully channeled rain into a repurposed oil drum, their auxiliary ration eclipsed any exam score. For the first time, they felt knowledge tangibly improving lives. Meanwhile, EARTH Wisdom Scholarship's first 10 recipients, meticulously selected from Kibera's brightest, entered Elite Academy's gates. Their crisp uniforms couldn't hide the nervous determination Keenan recognized from his own first day. He personally welcomed them, assigning Amina, now a STA teacher risen from EARTH Wisdom's digital hub, as mentor. Amina's journey inspired them. You're not Cha-Righty cases. You're Wa-Riers bringing unique perspectives. Your roots are strength, not chains. She initiated Roots dialogues pairing scholarship students with elite peers to share real lives and dreams. Initial awkwardness gave way to genuine exchange. Elite students discovered their underprivileged classmates possessed survival wisdom and hunger for learning they lacked. Scholarship kids recognized elite's rigor had merits too. This two-way connection became the program's heartbeat. EARTH wisdom technicians taught in elite classrooms, sharing real-world engineering challenges. Elite students contributed lab resources to optimize water filters. No savior complex, just mutual learning. 1 year later, Nairobi National Museum hosted Light of the Future, a joint exhibition showcasing collaboration fruits, patented portable water purifiers co-designed by elite and Kibera youth, documentaries tracking students' transformative journeys, scholarship recipients' academic triumphs. Most poignant, Keenan's mud-stained Best Science Hour Road replica displayed beside his international honors, captioned, "From Shame to Glory, a Journey of Knowledge and Dignity." The exhibition drew crowds, politicians, CS educators, ordinary citizens. Centerpiece. Was EARTH Wisdom's Revolution a renew HQ model, no longer a makeshift warri house but an architectural fusion of African traditions, honeycomb structures, woven textures, with sustainable tech, solar domes, rainwater harvesting, vertical gardens. At its ERT, a slowly rotating LED bead pattern symbolized Wisdom's global-local blend. Keenan presented proudly, spotting Lena, David, and the scholarship students beaming in the crowd. Then an unexpected figure read at the entrance. Elizabeth C.A. Reuter. No velvet gowns today, just a plain navy suit, hair slightly disheveled, face aged with exhaustion. She lingered near the exit, silently studying the models and photos, particularly the beaded motifs she'd once derided as primitive, now emblems of progress. Keenan approached. "Headmistress. Thank you for coming." C.A. Reuter's gaze flickered to his beaded amulet, then the glowing bead centerpiece. "This building is unusual," she finally murmured. Keenan nodded. "It's called Roots and Wings. Roots in African soil and wisdom, wings lifted by modern tech. This is what knowledge should be." C.A. Reuter said nothing. With one last inscrutable look, regret. Respect, she turned and read into the crowd. Days later, an anonymous letter arrived on Keenan's desk. Shaky handwriting, no signature, the bells tolled. I heard them. Not for expulsion, but repentance. You won, Keenan Mwata. Your way lit the lamp. That light reached even my cage. May your roots and wings soar higher. Keenan stood at EARTH Wisdom HQ's construction site, sunlight glinting off rising steel beams. He rubbed the amulet's worn beads between his fingers. The shameful bells of 10 years ago had faded. Now he heard children's laughter under solar lights, clean water gushing from filters, hammers building futures. A symphony of dignity, knowledge, and love playing on my RD without end. 5 years blue. Pass like Nairobi's highland winds, swift and transformative. Where EARTH Wisdom's old warri house once stood, now rose Roots and Wings, an eco-innovation hub that embodied Keenan's vision. Traditional African honeycomb bricks formed thick, temperature-regulating walls. Solar paneled roofs arched like outstretched wings. Vertical gardens draped the exterior as natural insulation. Rainwater harvesting systems channeled monsoon downpours into underground reservoirs. At its ERT, a massive ART installation, thousands of recycled glass beads and LEDs forming rotating tribal patterns by night, proclaiming tradition and future intertwined. Roots and Wings pulsed with life. Ground floor hosted open community spaces, skills training, medical consults, childcare. Second floor buzzed with engineers, designers, and locals co-creating next-gen solutions, affordable water tech, SMARTFA remaining sensors, renewable energy. Third floor housed Light of Future Academy, no stuffy classrooms, just hands-on workshops where scholarship kids and elite academy students tackled real-world problems together, designing drought alert apps for herders, optimizing microgrid algorithms, even 3D printing low-cost prosthetics. Elder Mwata, though frail, still held court in sunlit corners, showering ancestral wisdom about stars and soil, which Keenan would bridge with scientific principles, letting knowledge flow freely between roots and wings. Keenan's influence now spanned continents. Times 100 most influential. Keynote speaker at UN sustainability summits. His speeches weren't flowery, just hard truths. Real innovation grows from slum mud, F.A. Ramirez fields, mothers walking miles for clean water. It needs roots, deep love for land and people, and wings, tech's lifting power. Connect them, change happens. But fame cast shadows too. Critics emerged. Some accused EARTH wisdom of selling out. Products still too pricey for the poorest. Others said partnering with Elite Academy compromised ideals. Radicals even claimed he'd betrayed his roots, becoming the new elite he'd once fought. These BARBs stung. Late nights in his top-floor office, Keenan would gaze at Kibra's solar-lit contours below, replaying memories, Joseph's weathered face, C.A. Reuter's icy dismissal, Elder Mwata's knowing eyes, Amina's patient smiles, Lena and David's determined teamwork. Imperfect. Sure. But his compass stayed true. Profits funded community programs. Roots and wings remained free access. Over 500 scholarship kids now walked paths he'd once trodden alone. Then crisis struck. A monster cyclone battered Kenya's coast, floods drowning crops, displacing thousands, contaminating water supplies. Cholera loomed. Government aid lagged. Roots and wings mobilized instantly. Keenan led rapid response teams, engineers, medics, coordinators, hauling. Portable purifiers, solar archa ridgers, and calms heya are to remotest villages. Not handout charity, but empowerment, teaching locals to assemble/maintain systems themselves. Disaster zones became living classrooms. In one mud-choked camp, an elderly woman, hands trembling, filtered her first cup of clean water using their methods. TRS streaked her rain-drenched face as she whispered in Swahili, Mwata's son, your father swept roads his whole life, now you've swept death's floodwaters from us. The moment went viral. Images of Keenan kneeling in muck, working alongside villagers, became the purest testament to roots and wings, knowledge serving life, elites grounded in soil. Post-crisis, fame skyrocketed. The president offered Keenan a cabinet post, Minister of Tech and Innovation. National scale. Unlimited resources. Tempting beyond measure. Keenan gathered his core team, Daniel, Amina, community technicians, young scholarship alumni. He laid the dilemma ba re Daniel Ayerd, this is our shot. Shape policy from inside. Amina countered, power changes people. Will you still have time to teach kids filter assembly our soul as direct action? A young technician said simply, Mr. Keenan, wherever you go, roots and wings lives. But remember, your roots dig deepest here. Keenan listened, seeing Joseph's quiet dignity in their faces, sweeping roads not for glory, but because it needed doing. He didn't need titles to matter. At the press conference, Keenan declined the ministry with quiet grace, my roots anchor here, gesturing Tawa RD Kibra. My wings lift this place and others like it. Change STARTS with action, with CA ring for real people. This is my chosen path. After UARDS, he didn't return to the office. Slipping into work clothes, he joined a student workshop where kids clustered around a 3D printer, designing a prosthetic leg for a local amputee.
Kneeling.
Keenan examined their sketches. What if we composite recycled plastic with lightweight metal for this joint more durable? Their eyes lit up recognizing him.
The workshop hummed with machinery and eager voices.
Sunset gilded their faces through floor-to-ceiling windows. The beaded amulet rested against Keenan's chest, a weathered but unquenchable star. The true journey, he knew, wasn't about destinations, but the constant beat between roots and wings.
10 years enough for saplings to become mighty trees, trickles to swell into rivers.
Nairobi's skyline had changed, and Roots and Wings now stood proudly among its Laname archaeus. More than a building, it was a symbol, of knowledge transforming from chains to liberation, of dignity rising from trampled dust to become guiding light.
Keenan Mwata's name was legend now. His Roots and Wings model had spread like dandelion seeds across Africa, to Andean villages, Bangladeshi riverbanks each. Adapting solutions to local needs. Yet Keenan himself had stepped back from spotlights.
He'd handed daily operations to Daniel and younger leaders, becoming simply a mentor at the academy. His happiest hours were tinkering circuits with kids, listening to Elder Mwata's tales under acacia trees, walking Kibera's alleys hearing real needs. One dawn, Keenan strolled Kibera's paths as usual. Sunlight dappled through spa-RSE branches, the air smelled of roasted maize and dust. Passing a converted shipping container microschool, he paused to listen to children's bright voices reciting, so different from the muffled lectures he'd once eavesdropped on. Further on, women laughed at a EARTH wisdom water point while kids played NEARBY. Clean water mirrored their relaxed smiles.
Keenan smiled too, continuing Tawa RD Roots and Wings.
Suddenly, a small figure deruged from an alley, NEARLY colliding with him. A boy of about 7, in faded t-shirt, clutching a crude flashlight. Boe Road, old batteries, a single LED bulb.
Recognizing Keenan, the boy froze, bashful. Sorry, Mr. Mwata. Kneeling, Keenan asked gently, what's your name, son?
Abdul, sir. The boy's eyes shone with unusual seriousness.
I'm making science. So my sister can read at night. Kerosene smoke makes her cough.
He held up the dim flickering light.
Keenan's heart clenched.
This was his younger self scribbling math on slate by smoky lamplight.
Examining the crude wiring, he said, good start, Abdul. You're converting chemical energy to light. But not bright enough, eh? Abdul nodded eagerly. I want solar. Like your roof. But I have no panels. Solar isn't the only EARTH wisdom. Keenan led him to Roots and Wings Recycling Depot, salvaging disc-ride solar fragments, wires, a power bank.
Watch, he guided, as Elder Mwata once had, connecting pieces. Soon, a sturdier, brighter solar lamp emerged. Here.
Keenan handed it over, clicking it on. Light bathed Abdul's awestruck face.
Solutions often hide in what others' disc-a road knowledge helps them shine again.
Thank you, sir. Abdul clutched the lamp, dashing home UARD. Keenan smiled, watching him go.
This light would illuminate more than a textbook. It kindled the spa-RK of curiosity. This was Roots and Wings' true purpose. That evening, Keenan attended Nairobi Elite Academy's 120th anniversary. The hall glittered, but atmosphere had changed. The new headmistress, a young African woman, openly acknowledged past mistakes, celebrating their Roots and Wings pioneership. Hundreds of students doing community projects, dozens of grassroots innovations, expanded scholarships. She called Keenan their proudest unconventional alumnus. When he accepted the Distinguished Alumni Award, the standing ovation lasted minutes. No prepper read speech, just the plastic bead amulet from his pocket.
Rest rung.
With strong thread, it glowed RMLY under lights. Friends, Keenan's voice was steady. These beads were once proof of my primitiveness, grounds for expulsion.
Mud-stained, trampled.
Today they stand here not for themselves, but what they represent.
He raised them high.
They remind me of Joseph Mwada, a cleaner who swept my path to knowledge through silent labor. Of Elder Mwada teaching that true wisdom connects and serves. Of that rainy night 10 years ago when humiliation lit a fire, one that illuminated rather than consumed. Pausing, his gaze swept young faces, old comrades, Tawa RD Kibra. Bells once told my expulsion. Let them now ring for overlooked genius. For every struggling dreamer. For knowledge leaving ivory towers for fertility ARTH. For all who believe in light despite darkness. Placing the amulet under the Awa RD's glass case, he read, "These beads aren't just mine anymore. They belong to every child." At Roots and Wings, every Kibera boy chasing light, everyone believing knowledge should serve life and dignity is non-negotiable. They're both metal and eternal chime, reminding us our roots and purpose, however high we fly. The applause was thunderous. Descending, Keenan didn't return to VIP seats. Instead, he approached a frail old woman in front, Elizabeth C.A. Reuter. Time and illness had hollowed her, no trace of her former imperiousness remained. Her cloudy eyes glistened as Keenan knelt, clasping her wrinkled hand. "Keenan!" She rasped rely audibly, "The bells, I heard them, beautiful." Her attempt to raise a hand failed, but her look held fathomless complexity, finally resolving into childlike peace. Keenan simply squeezed her hand and stood. Without looking back, he strode out. Night breeze kissed his face, air tasting of freedom. Above, Nairobi's sky glittered with Roots and Wings lights and countless community spa arcades. His father's path had been walked far, his father's lamp had multiplied into constellations. The amulet's symbolic chime would echo forever across Africa, in every heart yearning for dignity and light, an endless epic of love and rebirth.